Hey there, awesome designers! Today we're diving into 10 powerful English phrases that will transform your design presentations completely. Key phrase 1. The structured opener. Here's your first professional phrase. I've structured today's presentation to walk you through our design strategy, solution, and implementation timeline. Why is this phrase so powerful? It shows immediate professionalism. When I used this last week with a big tech client, their entire attitude changed, from looking skeptical to looking interested in just seconds. Here's another version of this opener. Today, I'll guide you through our 3 key areas: the user research, design decisions, and measurable outcomes. Pro tip: practice this opener until it feels natural. I literally practice in front of my mirror every time. Key phrase 2. The requirement validator. Listen to this essential phrase. Before we dive deeper, let me confirm if these design solutions align with your core requirements. Let me tell you a funny story about why this phrase is so important. Last month, I skipped this check and spent 3 hours designing something completely off track. Try this variation for different situations. I'd love to quickly verify that we're prioritizing the right aspects for your business goals. Remember, this phrase is your safety net. Use it early in the presentation. Key phrase 3. The design explainer. Here's your next powerful phrase. We've implemented this specific design element to enhance user engagement in 3 key ways. Let me tell you why this phrase is a game changer. Most designers just say, I made it blue, or I moved it here, but this phrase turns your design choices into strategic decisions. Let me share a real example. Last week, I was presenting a navigation redesign. Listen to these 2 different approaches. Here's what not to say. I moved the menu to the side and made it sticky. Instead, here's the professional version. We've implemented this side navigation to achieve 3 goals: improved content hierarchy, faster user navigation, and increased engagement with key features. Try these variations for different situations. This design solution specifically addresses your need for business goal by specific feature explanation. Or, we've carefully crafted this interface to balance brand aesthetics with user functionality. Pro tip: always connect your design decisions to business impact. It's not about making things pretty, it's about solving problems. Real story time. I once had a client who was about to reject a design until I explained it using this phrase structure. Their response: now I understand why you made these choices. That's the power of explaining design strategically. Key phrase 4. The data persuader. Listen to this convincing phrase. Our user testing showed that this approach increased engagement by 40% among your target audience. Here's why this phrase is gold. It turns your design decisions from subjective opinions into hard facts. Try this alternative version. Based on industry benchmarks, this design pattern typically drives a 30% improvement in user satisfaction. Pro tip: even if you don't have exact numbers, you can reference industry standards or general trends. Just be honest about your sources. Real-world example. Last month, a client kept saying, I just don't feel confident about this change, until I shared some numbers. Their immediate response: why didn't you show me this data earlier? Game changer, right? You see, when you back up your design with numbers, you're not just a designer anymore. You're a strategic problem solver. Key phrase 5. The feedback collector. Listen to this crucial phrase. I'd love to hear your specific thoughts about how this solution addresses your main business challenges. Why does this work so well? Instead of asking, what do you think? Which often gets you that dreaded, it's nice response. You're guiding them toward constructive feedback. Here's another way to use this phrase. Which aspects of this design direction feel most aligned with your brand vision? Real story time. I once had a client who just kept saying, until I used this phrase. Suddenly, they opened up with detailed feedback that actually made the design better. Try this variation for remote meetings. Let's focus on specific elements one by one, starting with the homepage layout. What parts of this align with your customer journey? Pro tip: remember to pause after asking for feedback. Give them time to think. Don't rush to fill the silence. Sometimes those quiet moments lead to the best insights. Bonus advice: keep a notepad ready to write down their feedback. It shows you value their input, and trust me, clients love seeing you take notes. Key phrase 6. The concern handler. Listen to this problem-solving phrase. I understand your concern about the visual hierarchy. Let me show you how this approach actually enhances user flow. This is your go-to phrase when things get tricky. Trust me, it saved me countless times. Try this variation when needed. That's a valuable point about their concern. Here's how we've addressed it while maintaining the core functionality. Pro tip: always validate their concern first, then explain your solution. Think of it like a presentation sandwich: acknowledgement, explanation, solution. Here's a real story from last week. A client said, "This design doesn't pop enough." We've all heard that one, right? Instead of panicking, I responded with, "I appreciate your focus on visual impact. Let me walk you through how each element works together to create a sophisticated user experience that actually stands out in your market." Bonus variation for tough situations. Your concern about issue is exactly what we considered during the design phase. Would you like to see the user testing results that helped shape this decision? Remember this: when clients raise concerns, they're not attacking your design. They're usually expressing underlying business worries. Address those, and you'll win them over. Key phrase 7. The alternative presenter. Listen to this strategic phrase. I've prepared 2 additional approaches, each offering unique advantages for your specific goals. Let me tell you why this phrase is your secret weapon. Instead of being stuck with one solution, you're showing that you've explored multiple paths to success. Here's a real scenario from last month. While our primary design emphasizes simplicity and direct user flow, I've also explored 2 alternatives. Option A focuses on visual impact, while Option B maximizes content visibility. Let's look at how each one serves your objectives differently. Try this variation when presenting options. Each of these approaches solves the challenge differently, while staying true to your brand guidelines. Let's explore what resonates most with your vision. Pro tip: always have alternatives ready, but here's the trick. Present your preferred design first. Psychology shows clients compare everything to the first option they see. Funny story. Last week, a client was totally set against my first design until I showed alternatives. Suddenly, that first design didn't look so bad. Sometimes, comparison is your best friend. Bonus advice: don't just show random alternatives. Make sure each option solves the problem in a meaningful way, just through a different approach. Your alternatives should be just as thoughtful as your main design. Key phrase 8. The timeline manager. Listen to this project-saving phrase. Based on today's feedback, we can deliver the revised designs by next Thursday, keeping us on track for the launch date. This is your lifesaver for managing expectations. Instead of just promising delivery dates, you're showing how everything fits into the bigger picture. Here's a real situation that happened to me. These changes would require 5 business days to properly implement and test. To maintain our launch date, I can suggest some quick wins we could implement now, then schedule the larger changes for Phase 2. Try this variation when deadlines are tight. Let me outline 2 timeline options: a fast-track version focusing on essential changes, and a comprehensive version that includes all requested features. Pro tip: always add a small buffer to your timeline, but never say buffer time. Instead, say, "This timeline includes proper testing and quality assurance." Sounds more professional, right? Funny story. I once gave an exact delivery date without buffer time, then got sick for 3 days. Now I always say, "by Thursday," instead of "on Tuesday." Those 2 words saved my reputation many times. Bonus advice. When clients push for faster delivery, don't just say no. Instead, show them what would need to be simplified or moved to phase 2 to meet their timeline. Let them make an informed decision. Key phrase 9. The budget diplomat. Listen to this money-smart phrase. This solution allows us to achieve your core objectives while staying within the planned investment. Let me tell you why this phrase is pure gold. Notice how we say planned investment instead of budget? It's not just fancy words, it changes the whole conversation. Here's a real situation from last month. Let me show you how we can achieve similar results through strategic design choices that align with our current scope. Try this variation for scope creep situations. We could approach this in 2 ways. Option A works within our current investment, while Option B would require additional resources but adds these specific benefits. Pro tip: never say no to client requests. Instead, present options with clear cost implications. Let them make an informed business decision. Funny story. I once had a client who kept saying, "just one more small change," until I used this phrase. Their response: "Oh, I didn't realize how these small changes add up." Sometimes it's all about how you say it. Bonus advice. When discussing budget, always tie it back to value. Instead of talking about costs, talk about returns on investment. Like this. This approach not only fits our current scope, but also gives you the best value for your investment through increased user engagement. Ready for our final and one of the most crucial phrases? It's the one that ties everything together. Key phrase 10. The professional closer. Listen to this powerful closing phrase. Let me summarize our key decisions and next steps to ensure we're all aligned moving forward. This is your grand finale, folks. Think of it like a greatest hits album. You're replaying all the important parts. Here's a real example of how I use this in meetings. Today we've agreed on 3 key points: the homepage redesign with the simplified navigation, the new color scheme for better brand alignment, and the phased implementation approach. Our next steps are design revisions by Thursday, your feedback by Monday, and development kickoff next Wednesday. Does this summary align with your understanding? Try this variation for different situations. Before we wrap up, I want to confirm we're aligned on both the design direction and our next actions. This ensures we maintain momentum. Pro tip: always end with a clear action plan. It shows leadership and prevents those awkward, "so, what happens next?" moments. Final thoughts. There you have it, designers. Your complete guide to nailing English presentations. These 10 phrases have literally saved my presentations countless times, and I know they'll help you too. Quick recap of all phrases. 1. The structured opener. 2. The requirement validator. 3. The design explainer. 4. The data persuader. 5. The feedback collector. 6. The concern handler. 7. The alternative presenter. 8. The timeline manager. 9. The budget diplomat. And 10. The professional closer. If this helped you, hit that subscribe button for more real, practical design presentation tips. Next week, we're talking about handling difficult feedback without losing your cool. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Share your own presentation stories in the comments, successes, or disasters. We're all learning together here. See you in the next video.